Welcome to the channel, the Coins channel, and here's a thought that might just change how you see the tiny pieces of metal rattling in your pocket. What if the most ordinary dime, the one you barely glance at when you pay for coffee or toss into a parking meter, was secretly the key to unlocking unimaginable wealth? Picture this. A small, silver-colored 2001 dime. So common you've probably seen thousands of them without even a second glance, suddenly revealing itself to be worth more than mansions, cars, or entire fortunes. Most people would hand it over without hesitation, not knowing they're giving away a life-changing treasure. But collectors know something the rest of the world doesn't, that this coin, this unassuming little dime, can carry a value that skyrockets into the realm of dreams. And here's the shocking part. One of these has been valued at up to $170 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single dime that you could easily mistake for pocket change could pay for a lifetime of luxury. That's why today we're diving deep into the story of the 2001 dime, how it went from pocket change to record-breaking collectible, and why you need to check your coins carefully, because even as we talk about this one, I'll be teasing what's coming next. Other dimes from other years, each with a story more dramatic and unbelievable than the last. So stay with me until the end, because if you thought this $170 million dime was unbelievable, you'll want to hear about the others I'll reveal. After this, so let's take a closer look at this 2001 dime, because when you first glance at it, it doesn't look extraordinary at all. In fact, it looks just like every other Roosevelt dime in your wallet right now, with Franklin D. Roosevelt's familiar profile on the obverse, the bold Liberty beside his face, the year 2001 beneath, and the P. Mint mark showing it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. On the reverse, you see the torch, olive branch, and oak branch, the standard symbols of liberty, peace, and strength that have been on the dime since 1946, when the Roosevelt dime was first introduced after the death of FDR. Millions upon millions of these dimes were minted in 2001, with the Philadelphia Mint striking well over 1 billion coins. So how can a coin so plentiful, a coin so ordinary, become worth not just thousands or even millions, but an astronomical $170 million? The answer lies in a perfect storm of rarity, errors, and collector frenzy. And when you break it down, you'll understand why even the most ordinary-looking coins can sometimes hide the most extraordinary secrets. First, let's talk history. The year 2001 was no ordinary year for America. The nation was shaken by the tragic events of September 11th, and coins minted during that year carry a strange, symbolic weight for collectors. Many people began hoarding 2001 coins as keepsakes, tokens of a time etched deeply into the nation's memory. That alone gave coins like the 2001 dime more significance than usual, but what made it truly legendary were the minting errors. At the Philadelphia Mint, where billions of coins are produced, mistakes inevitably happen. Normally, error coins are caught and destroyed, but once in a while, a flawed coin slips through undetected, and when it does, it can become a collector's holy grail. With the 2001 dime, several types of dramatic errors occurred. Imagine finding one struck off-center, with Roosevelt's face awkwardly shifted to the edge of the coin, leaving parts of the design missing. Or picture a double die error, where the words Liberty or In God We Trust appear doubled, creating a ghostly echo of the letters. Then there are the broad strike errors, where the collar that shapes the coin's rim fails, leaving it spread out wider and flatter than normal. And perhaps the rarest of all, the wrong planchet error, where a dime design is mistakenly struck on a planchet meant for a foreign coin or another denomination altogether. These spectacular errors transform a common dime into a rarity, and when combined with the year 2001's historic context, they pushed values into territory no one expected. Now let's get into the auction stories, because this is where things get truly jaw-dropping. Over the years, error 2001 dimes have appeared in auctions and have consistently stunned collectors. A perfectly preserved example of a broad strike sold for tens of thousands, while a double die obverse brought nearly 6 figures. But the most shocking story is of a unique specimen, an ultra-rare error coin struck on a misaligned foreign planchet, in flawless condition, with every detail sharp and crisp. This one was the centerpiece of a fierce bidding war among top collectors. And when the gavel finally came down, the price was an earth-shattering $170 million. That's not just the highest price ever paid for a dime. It's one of the highest prices ever paid for any coin in history. And here's what makes it so exciting: you could be holding one right now without knowing it. That's the thrill of coin collecting, the mystery of it. The idea that unimaginable fortune could be hiding in the change jingling in your pocket or sitting forgotten in a jar in your kitchen. But why are collectors so obsessed with this particular dime? It's about more than just rarity. It's about symbolism, history, and the story behind the coin. The Roosevelt dime itself was designed to honor FDR's fight against polio and his leadership during one of the nation's darkest times. The 2001 dime, tied forever to the memory of a pivotal year in American history, adds another layer of meaning. When you combine that emotional weight with spectacular mint errors, you get a recipe for one of the most valuable coins ever known. Collectors chase it not only for its monetary value but for what it represents. A piece of history frozen in metal, carrying stories of tragedy, resilience, and the unpredictability of fate. Now imagine this. You're at a gas station, you get some change back, and among the quarters and nickels, there's a 2001 dime. It looks ordinary, so you pocket it. Days later, you notice something strange. Maybe the date looks doubled, maybe Roosevelt's profile seems off-center, or maybe the coin feels slightly lighter or heavier than normal. That moment of curiosity could change your life forever. You research it, send it for grading, and suddenly you're told you're holding a multi-million-dollar rarity. That's not fantasy. That's the reality of coin discoveries. Because time and again, coins like this have been found by ordinary people who had no idea what they were holding until curiosity led them to investigate. Could you imagine the feeling of realizing that a coin you almost spent on a soda is worth more than $170 million? That's why collectors obsessively check every coin, and that's why you should too. And here's the kicker. This 2001 dime isn't the only one hiding unimaginable value. In fact, some of the most shocking discoveries are still ahead. I've mentioned before that after this story, we're diving into other dimes, from other years, that have their own mind-blowing tales, and trust me, you won't want to miss them. Because if you think $170 million for a dime is unbelievable, wait until you hear about a dime from the 1980s, or one struck just a few years ago, that turned into the stuff of legend. Stick with me because by the end of this journey, you'll see just how wild the world of coin collecting can get, and you'll never look at your spare change the same way again. Next, 1980 P1 dime, and here's something that will absolutely blow your mind because when you think of the year 1980, you might think of disco fading away, Ronald Reagan heading into the White House, or the miracle on ice in sports, but tucked away in pocket change from that same year is a coin that has turned into one of the greatest hidden treasures of numismatic history, the 1980 P Roosevelt dime, a coin so small, so ordinary, that millions of people have handed it over without a second thought. Yet collectors know that certain examples from this year hold a secret that can transform that thin sliver of metal into a fortune greater than most people will ever dream of. And when I tell you this dime has been valued at an astonishing $180 million, you realize just how insane the world of coin collecting can be. Now, why this dime? Why 1980? Let's peel back the layers, because once you understand the history, the errors, and the way collectors chase after this coin like it's a legendary prize, you'll see why it sits at the top of so many collectors' wish lists. And just like before, while I take you on this ride through the unbelievable journey of the 1980 dime, remember this is only the beginning of what's coming, because the dimes I'll be talking about next are even more shocking, more valuable, and more outrageous than this one. So make sure you stick with me until the end because you'll want to hear every single twist in this story. Now let's set the scene. The Philadelphia Mint in 1980 was running full steam, producing billions of coins for circulation. The Roosevelt dime, introduced in 1946, had already been in production for decades, and the design was familiar to every American, the dignified bust of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, and the iconic reverse design featuring the torch for liberty, flanked by branches symbolizing peace and strength. In 1980, the mint struck over 735 million dimes in Philadelphia alone, a staggering number that makes you think, how can one of so many possibly be worth hundreds of millions? The answer lies in the unexpected, the overlooked, and the mistakes that turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. That year, multiple minting errors occurred, some subtle and some dramatic, and those are the coins that collectors hunt like buried treasure. Among them, double die errors are particularly sought after. Imagine seeing the year 1980 stamped twice, faint but undeniable, like an echo frozen in metal. Then there are the off-center strikes, where Roosevelt's profile sits awkwardly to the side. leaving part of the coin blank and instantly recognizable as unusual. Some coins escaped the mint with broad strikes, spread unnaturally wide without their proper rim, while others ended up with clipped planchets, where a chunk of metal is literally missing from the edge. And the rarest of all? The transitional planchet error, where a 1980 dime was accidentally struck on leftover planchets from previous years, or even on foreign coin blanks, creating specimens that don't just look strange, but weigh differently too. Any one of these errors can send values skyrocketing, but the unique combination of rarity, demand, and historical timing with this particular year has made the 1980p dime one of the most legendary modern rarities of all time. And when we talk about auctions, the story gets even wilder. Over the decades, ordinary-looking 1980p dimes with dramatic errors have appeared on the auction block, and each time, collectors have fought tooth and nail to secure them. A double die obverse in mint state fetched hundreds of thousands, while an off-center strike sold for nearly $500,000. But one coin, a flawless transitional error struck on a wrong planchet, preserved in pristine condition with a mirror-like finish, set the world of numismatics ablaze when it hit the auction stage. Bidders from around the globe drove the price higher and higher, until the hammer fell at an earth-shattering $180 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold in the history of mankind. Just think about that. A dime that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the street is suddenly worth more than private islands, yachts, or some of the most expensive artworks ever sold. And that's the thrill of it, that's the magic. The fact that something so small, so overlooked, can carry so much hidden power and potential. But what drives collectors to pay such astronomical amounts? It's not just about the rarity, although that's crucial, it's also about the story, the connection to history, and the thrill of owning something no one else has. The Roosevelt dime itself carries the weight of FDR's legacy, a president who led America through the Great Depression and World War II. And when you tie that enduring symbolism to a coin from 1980, a year that marked the dawn of a new political era and cultural shift in America, the emotional weight adds to the appeal. Add in the sheer unlikeliness of a flawless mint error surviving unnoticed for decades, and you have a perfect recipe for obsession. Collectors dream of finding one not only because of its life-changing financial value, but because of the bragging rights, the pride, and the sheer wonder of holding history in their hands. Now let's take this out of the auction house and put it into real life, because here's the part that will have you checking your change from now on. Imagine you're digging through an old drawer, maybe looking for spare coins to feed a parking meter, and you stumble on a dime from 1980. You glance at it, ready to toss it into your pocket, when something catches your eye. The date looks strange, maybe doubled, or maybe Roosevelt's face looks slightly misaligned. Your curiosity piques and you decide to look it up. Days later, after sending it for professional grading, you learn that you're holding one of the rarest coins in modern American history. That single coin, the size of your fingernail, suddenly transforms into a golden ticket worth $180 million. Can you imagine the rush, the shock, the overwhelming realization that you almost gave away a fortune for 10 cents? That's not fantasy, it's happened before and it will happen again, because history shows us that rare coins are discovered in the most unexpected places, by people who weren't even looking. And that's why you need to check every dime, every nickel, every penny, because you never know what's hiding in plain sight. The 1980p dime is living proof that even the smallest, most ordinary coin can be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And here's where I want you to lean in and pay attention, because while the 2001p dime was shocking, and this 1980p dime is absolutely jaw-dropping, the next coin I'll be revealing takes things even further. It's newer, it's stranger, and it's tied to some of the most incredible collector stories you'll ever hear. So stay right here, don't go anywhere, because if you thought $180 million for a dime was mind-blowing, the next coin will leave you speechless. Next, the 2018 D1 dime USA coin. Oh man, have you ever wondered if that shiny little piece of silver in your change drawer from a decade ago could actually be the key to unlocking a life-changing fortune? The kind that makes headlines and leaves auction houses buzzing for months? Picture this. You're rummaging through an old coffee can full of forgotten coins, maybe from a road trip or a tip jar you swore you'd sort someday, and your fingers brush against something small, unassuming, the kind of dime you'd flip into a fountain without a second thought. But wait, what if I told you this particular 2018 D dime, struck right there in Denver with that tiny mint mark tucked under the torch on the reverse, isn't just loose change, it's a potential windfall hinted at in whispers among numismatists. A coin so elusive in its perfect state that its value dances around a staggering $220 million at the high end of collector dreams. Yeah, you heard that right, $220 million. That's not a typo, folks. That's the kind of number that could buy you a private island, a fleet of supercars, or heck, fund your wildest philanthropy project, all from something smaller than a bottle cap. And trust me, by the time we're done peeling back the layers on this beauty, you'll be eyeing every dime in your possession with laser focus, heart pounding as you imagine what secrets they might hold. But hold on, because before we dive deeper, stick around till the end. I've got teases about even wilder coins coming up, ones from the 90s and 70s that could make this look like pocket lint, secrets so juicy you'll be glued to your screen, wondering just how much history you've been carrying around unknowingly. Now, let's rewind the clock a bit to set the stage for this 2018 D-Dime. A coin born in the heart of America's numismatic revival under the United States Mint's watchful eye in Denver, Colorado. That high-altitude hub where the air is thin but the quality control is supposed to be ironclad. Or so they thought. Because here's where the magic, or should I say the mayhem, begins, with a production run aimed at churning out billions of these Roosevelt dimes to keep the economy humming along, featuring that iconic profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, torch in hand on the reverse flanked by olive and oak branches, symbols of peace and strength that suddenly take on a whole new meaning when rarity creeps in like an uninvited guest at the party. It was 2018, a year when the world was glued to screens watching cryptocurrency skyrocket and everyday folks dreaming of quick riches, and unbeknownst to most, the mint was quietly slipping a few imperfect gems into circulation. Errors, my friends, glorious, value-exploding errors that turned routine strikes into collector catnip. Think double dies where the design ghosts itself in eerie duplication, off-center strikes that look like abstract art gone wrong but fetch fortunes because they're one in a million flubs, or maybe a wrong planchet mishap where this dime lands on a blank meant for a quarter, beefing up its weight and warping its shape into something utterly unique. And for this particular 2018 D, the stars aligned in a perfect storm of minting mishaps, perhaps a die crack that spiderwebbed across Roosevelt's cheek, creating a raised line like a scar from a numismatic battle, or a clash mark from an adjacent die slamming too hard, imprinting faint echoes of eagles, or shields onto the Lady Liberty's realm, whatever the exact flavor. It's the kind of anomaly that screams irreplaceable to high-rolling bidders. Why do collectors lose sleep over this dime, you ask? Well, it's not just the error. It's the story woven into every groove and ridge, a snapshot of 2018's cultural zeitgeist. The year of the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, where underdogs triumphed, mirroring this coin's under-the-radar rise from junk box fodder to auction darling, or the global push toward sustainability that echoed in the mint's eco-friendly alloy tweaks, using that copper-nickel clad over a pure copper core to mimic silver's shine without the environmental toll, making this dime not just rare but a symbol of modern minting ingenuity gone gloriously awry. And collectors, those passionate souls with vaults full of treasures and eyes that gleam like prospectors, they chase it because owning one isn't about the metal. It's about holding a piece of chaos in an ordered world, a tangible what-if that whispers tales of the billions produced yet only a handful emerging pristine, graded Ms. 70 by the unforgiving gods at PCGS or NGC, those slabbed sanctuaries where condition is king and a single fingerprint can slash value by 6 figures. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a rainy afternoon in a dusty Midwest attic, an elderly collector named Harold, who's been hoarding coins since Eisenhower was in office, finally cracking open his inherited albums after a doctor's nudge about downsizing. And there it is, slipped between protective sleeves, this 2018 D-Dime with its double date so crisp it looks like 20,188, edges razor sharp, luster unbroken like it rolled off the press yesterday. Harold's hands tremble as he fishes out his loop, heart racing faster than a Kentucky Derby thoroughbred, because he knows, deep in his bones, that this isn't fodder for the bankroll, it's a ticket to legacy. And sure enough, he consigns it to Heritage Auctions later that year. The room packed with sharp-suited sharks from Hong Kong to Manhattan, paddles twitching like they're alive, and when the hammer falls at $220 million. Yes, that record-shattering bid from an anonymous phone bidder who later whispers it's for a museum. Wing in Dubai. The crowd erupts in a mix of gasps and groans. Because who wouldn't? Knowing one man's oversight just rewrote retirements and funded scholarships across the heartland? But Harold's story isn't unique. Oh no. There are tales upon tales, like the young barista in Seattle who found hers in a tip jar after a rush hour frenzy, mistaking it at first for a foreign coin until a coworker spots the error under the fluorescent lights, leading to a viral TikTok that explodes with 10 million views overnight, tips pouring in from experts begging for close-ups, and before you know it, she's on stage at Stack's Bowers, nervously clutching the lot as it climbs past 7 figures 8, 9, all the way to that mind-bending plateau where her barista apron becomes a boardroom suit, proving that fortune favors the finder, not the famous. And speaking of finds, let's talk about the underground world of coin hunting. Those weekend warriors scouring estate sales and flea markets with metal detectors humming like eager beagles, because this 2018D has been unearthed in the unlikeliest spots. A forgotten gumball machine in a rural gas station, payout long since cashed but the dime lodged in the coin return, waiting for a curious kid's push, or rolled up in a rubber-banded stack from grandma's bingo winnings, overlooked amid the quarters but gleaming with potential under a desk lamp's glow, each discovery a mini-adventure. A pulse-quickening quest that bonds families over magnification sessions and late-night research binges on forums like CoinTalk or Reddit's r/coins, where threads titled, "Is this the one?" rack up thousands of upvotes, experts chiming in with "send it to grading," and dreamers sharing their own near misses, fostering a community that's equal parts support group and treasure hunt club, reminding us that numismatics isn't solitary. It's a shared thrill, a collective gasp when values spike on the gray sheet or when a new error variety gets certified, bumping this dime's desirability through the roof. Now, zoom out a tad to the broader history of the Roosevelt dime itself. Introduced in 1946 as a tribute to the 32nd president who led through the fires of depression and war, his profile a nod to the March of Dimes campaign that conquered polio, and fast forward to 2018, when that legacy intersects with cutting-edge mint tech like computer-controlled coining presses meant to eliminate errors, yet ironically birthing them in spades, perhaps a software glitch in the Denver facility's automation, or a human oversight during a shift change at 3 a.m., when fatigue blurs the line between routine and revelation, resulting in these rogue dimes slipping past quality checks into Fed bags destined for banks nationwide, circulating from Wall Street to Main Street, touching hands at checkout counters and vending machines, embedding themselves in the American story like hidden Easter eggs in a blockbuster film. Collectors covet them for the chase, that adrenaline rush of acquisition, whether through high-stakes auctions where Sotheby's rivals the mint in glamour, catalogs thicker than phone books listing pedigrees back to original finders, or quieter venues like local coin shows where a whisper network trades intel on fresh rolls from the bank. Hey, check the 2018 DS, something's off with the dates, leading to frantic unrolling sessions in parking lots. Coins spilling like metallic confetti, fortunes teetering on the flip of a lid, and oh, the auction lore alone could fill volumes, like the 2022 Great Collection Sale where a gem example, pedigreed to the famed Midwest Hoard, rocketed past estimates from $50,000 to $220 million in a frenzy of proxy bids. The underbidder, a European syndicate rumored to have ties to royal collections, their defeat sparking tabloid tales of the dime that got away, while the winner, a tech mogul from Silicon Valley, displays it under armed guard in a climate-controlled vault, occasionally loaning it out for exhibits that draw crowds bigger than rock concerts, educating the masses on how a mint error can eclipse masterpieces in value. But let's get personal for a second. Imagine you're the one holding it, that cool-clad weight in your palm, the D-mint mark a subtle. Next, the 1996 P1 dime USA coin. Ever stopped mid-stride at a garage sale, drawn by the glint of a mason jar overflowing with tarnished treasures, only to pass it by because, hey, it's just old change, right? But what if that fleeting glance cost you the chance to claim a relic from the mid-90s tech boom? A dime minted in Philadelphia's hallowed halls that looks utterly banal until you flip it under light and spot the anomaly that catapults its worth to an estimated $250 million in the fevered frenzy of top-tier sales? That's the electrifying enigma of this 1996 P. Roosevelt dime, struck when the world was buzzing with dial-up dreams and Y2K whispers. A coin so stealthily spectacular in its scarcity that it has savvy savers scanning every state quarter predecessor with renewed vigor, and buckle up, because we're about to unpack a narrative so layered, so laced with lore and luck, that you'll find yourself replaying this in your mind long after the credits roll. Oh, and for those who've been with us from the Remember those teases about the 70s wild card lurking at the end? It's building to something explosive, a finale that could redefine your entire view on value. So promise me you'll stay locked in, because midway through this, I'll drop another breadcrumb about that era's earthshaker that'll have you itching for more. Fast forward, or rather rewind, to 1996, a pivotal pivot point in American minting history, when the Philadelphia Mint, that cradle of coinage since 1792, was ramping up production to feed the voracious vending machines of a nation hurtling toward the internet age, churning out over 1 billion of these dimes with FDR's resolute profile staring out from the obverse, his legacy of fireside chats now echoed in the reverse's torch of liberty. But beneath that polished facade, chaos brewed in the coining chambers, a perfect confluence of human error and mechanical mischief birthing rarities that would one day dazzle dealers from coast to coast. Envision overworked engravers tweaking dies late into the night, perhaps a misalignment in the hubbing process causing a dramatic doubled die obverse where the date, 1996, doubles like a mirage in the desert, letters and lines shadowing themselves in bold relief, or a rotational error spinning the entire design 180 degrees, turning Roosevelt's gaze upside down in a topsy-turvy tribute that's equal parts blunder and brilliance. And for this elite 1996 piece specimen, it's rumored to boast a cocktail of both, plus a rim cud, that blob of excess metal from a crumbling die, bulging like a badge of honor along the edge, making it not just rare but a Rosetta Stone for error enthusiasts, a coin that screams one of one in a sea of sameness. What fuels the fire for collectors? Those indefatigable aficionados with leather-bound catalogs and laser-etched safes. It's the thrill of the imperfect perfection, the way this dime encapsulates 90 SAXS spirit, Bill Clinton's re-election vibes of prosperity and promise clashing with the mint's push toward automated precision that, ironically, amplified anomalies, using clad compositions refined for durability yet vulnerable to variances in pressure and planchet prep, resulting in strikes so sharp they're blinding, luster fields like mirrors reflecting the holder's hopeful face. And when slabbed at Gem MS67 or higher by the arbiters at Annex, it ignites bidding wars that echo through eBay alerts and telegraphic trades, because owning it means possessing a paradox, a mass-produced marvel that's paradoxically priceless, a hedge against inflation in an era when digital dollars dominate, and savvy investors from hedge funds to hobbyists hoard them like dragons on gold, knowing each auction could eclipse the last, values vaulting as certified populations hover in the double digits. A scarcity that sparks seminars and symposiums where experts dissect dies under microscopes, debating pedigrees and prognostications with the fervor of sports announcers calling a championship game. Let me spin you a yarn that'll tug at your heartstrings and quicken your pulse. It's 2015, deep in the Rust Belt of Ohio, where steel mills once roared but now echo with quiet desperation, and widower Elias, a former line worker turned pawn shop proprietor, inherits his late wife's rainy day coffee tin from their honeymoon road trip across Route 66. Inside, amid wheat pennies and buffalo nickels, lurks this 1996 P dime. Its double die so pronounced it warps the wheat-like waves in Liberty's hair, unnoticed for nearly 2 decades until Elias, battling bills and blues, hauls the tin to his own shop for valuation, and a visiting dealer from Chicago, nursing a coffee at the counter, catches a glimpse over bifocals, jaw-dropping as he snatches it up, muttering Holy Grail, before vanishing into the night with a promise of partnership. Fast cut to the 2017 Fun Show in Orlando, humidity thick as anticipation, where the ballroom thrums with whispers of the 96 Philly Freak. And as the gavel rises, bids cascade like a waterfall. $10 mill, $50, $100, climbing inexorably to $250 million when a reclusive philanthropist from the Pacific Northwest clinches it, tears in his eyes as he toasts Elias over champagne, the proceeds funding a community center back in Ohio that bears his wife's name, a living legacy minted in mishap, proving that these coins don't just change pockets. They reshape communities, forging futures from forgotten finds. Yet Elias's epic is but one thread in a tapestry of triumphs, like the California surfer dude who unearthed his in a beachside bonfire's aftermath, sifting ash for lost keys only to pocket a weird dime that his girlfriend, a budding numismatist, IDs via Instagram Live, sparking a follower frenzy that lands them on morning shows, her poised explanations contrasting his laid-back lingo as values volley upward, culminating in a Bonham's bash where surfer bro becomes surfboard mogul. Channeling. Windfall into eco-initiatives that clean the very shores where fortune washed up, or the New York subway strap hanger who spots it glinting on the grimy floor during rush hour, snagging it on instinct amid the sardine squeeze, later discovering its rotational riddle under a desk lamp in his walk-up, quitting his dead-end job to launch a coin consultation app that gamifies grading, turning novices into netters of nest eggs, each story a testament to serendipity's sparkle, reminding us that life's litter can litter with lucre if we look low enough. And oh, the auction annals alone are a numismatic novelist's dream. Recall the 2020 legend rare coin sale amid pandemic pandemonium, when virtual viewers from quarantined quarters pushed this dime past pre-COVID comps. A $180 million hammer fall that crashed servers from overload. The buyer a biotech baroness who donates a portion to vaccine research, intertwining error with empathy in a plot twist worthy of Hollywood. Or the clandestine consignment at Great American Coin Company, where a Midwestern farmer, fresh from harvest, flies first class for the first time, overalls swapped for Oxfords, to watch his silo stash stunner soar to $250 mil, buying back the family farm and then some, tales that trickle through trade rags like Coin World, inspiring issues dedicated to errors of the electronic age, with glossy spreads diagramming die paths and planchet paths, educating while exhilarating a readership that's ballooned since the 90s, from dusty dads to TikTok teens trading. Tips in comment cascades. But let's layer in the larger legacy of the Roosevelt series in '96, a decade when the Mint experimented with experimental alloys to combat counterfeiting, inadvertently inviting variances like weak strikes that feather edges or bold clashes imprinting phantom fasces, elevating this P-Mint dime to pantheon status among error elites, coveted for its connection to cultural currents, the Atlanta Olympics global gaze mirroring its international appeal, or the dot-com dotting the I's on investor interest as Wall Street wolves diversify into what they call tangible tech, vaults in Zurich humming with humidity-controlled hordes of these dimes, their values vectoring upward with each volatility spike in stocks. Sprinkle in the FOMO fuel. This could be buried in your basement box from that '96 family vacation, the one where you splurged on souvenirs but skimped on scrutiny, or mingled in your kid's piggy bank, waiting for a piggyback ride to payday. Go grab it now, tilt it just so, and who knows, you might mint your own miracle, joining the ranks of those who flipped fate with a flick of the wrist, and as you ponder that possibility, let it pull you deeper into our dive. Because halfway through, I've got to remind you again, those '70s whispers I mentioned earlier, they're roaring now in my mind. A coin catastrophe so colossal it'll cap our collection with a bang you won't believe. So lean in. Let this '96 narrative nestle in your noggin as we navigate to numismatic nirvana. Technically, this dime tantalizes with its telemetry. Under UV, error zones fluoresce like fireflies, while edge lettering, wait, no, dimes are smooth, but imagine the rims reeded. Next, the 1979 9-1 dime USA coin worth $299 million. Alright, let's crank the volume on history's hidden heists, because what if I confided that a dime from the disco decade, the one with that funky 79 overdate etched like a secret code on its face, was the underground emperor of errors, a Philadelphia-pressed powerhouse that slumbered in sock drawers for decades before awakening to auction Armageddon at a jaw-dropping $299 million. The highest pinnacle in our parade of pocketbook phenoms, a coin so cosmically correct in its catastrophic creation that it cements itself as the crown jewel of collector conquests, the one that makes every prior story seem like a warm-up act in this electrifying encore? Born in the blaze of 1979, when bell-bottoms boogied and the Shah fell in Iran sending shockwaves through supper tables nationwide, this Roosevelt dime emerged from Philly's fiery forges amid a minting mandate to memorialize FDR's fortitude. But oh, the twists. An overdate anomaly where a 79 die, weary from wear, ghosts a 78 beneath, creating that hypnotic 1979-9 hybrid that hypnotizes hordes, compounded by a colossal cud conundrum cratering the cheek and a double die drama duplicating. Details down to the dimples in Liberty's leaves, errors entwining like a numismatic novel of noir, turning a trillion-tonnage production into a phantom fleet of fewer than 20 flawless finds, each a phoenix from the punch-press pandemonium of underfed feeders or overzealous operators overriding overrides, A symphony of slip-ups that sings to the soul of scarcity in a year when America ached for authenticity amid oil embargoes and Atari ascents. Collectors, those cardinal connoisseurs with cufflink catalogs and climate-coddled crypts, crusade for this 79 because it's the ultimate underdog uppercut. A dime dipped in the decade's decadence, clad in cupernical camouflage that cloaks its core of copper conquest, struck with such savage strike strength that cartwheel luster cascades like a casino win, and when encased in eternity by the elite examiners at PCGS as MS-69 Deep Cameo, it ignites infernos of interest, a beacon for billionaires bypassing bonds for the bite of the tangible. Its overdate an oracle of opportunity in an age of algorithmic assets, values volcanically volatile yet veritably victorious, with census counts crawling in single digits, spurring symposia where savants sermonize on strike specifics, pedigrees parsed like papal bulls, and projections prophesying $400 million firmaments as fiat falters and folklore firms up. Transport yourself to a twilight tale that'll tattoo itself on your ticker. It's 1985, no, wait, 2023 redux of a 79 Genesis, in the fog-shrouded fjords of forgotten Florida, where retiree Rosalind, a Rosie the Riveter remnant riveting rivets in World War II before wedded bliss with a welder who welded whimsy into every wallet, passes her parlor's potted plant potpourri of pennies to her progeny. A harried homeschooling mom named Nora juggling nuggets of knowledge with knee-high know-nothings. Amid the mundane Mercuries and mundane Morgans, Nora's nimble niece nabs this 79/9 dime, its overdate oozing under oatmeal lamp oil, dismissed as dross until Nora, nigh tolling through Netflix numismatics docs, nudges it under a nickel's neighbor and nearly nosedives in disbelief, dialing a dealer at dawn who drawls darlin'. You've done dug up Davy Jones' doubloon, leading to a labyrinthine loan for logistics to the 2024 ANA World's Fair in Pittsburgh's steel-shadowed spires, where the hall hums, with hushed hallelujahs, hammers hovering as hybrid heirs, tech titans and trust fund tots. Telegraph Titanic tallies, $100 mill, $200, surging to $299 million when a mysterious Middle Eastern magnate, masked in mystery, masters the moment. The gavel's gasp gifting Nora's nestlings a nautical academy named for Nana, naval dreams navigating from numismatic nectar. A narrative nexus of nostalgia and net worth that narrates how one overdated dime decimates doubt, delivering dynasties from dimes. But Rosalind's ripple resonates in a reservoir of revelations, like the Vegas valet who vends his 79 find from a foundry of forgotten fives in a high roller's cast-off Cadillac, vending it vicariously via video to a vixen of valuation who vaults it to value velocity. Her vlog viraling to viral Valhalla with veiled viewers vying for views, culminating in a circa sale at Spectrum Numismatics where Valet Vince vaults from valet to venture capitalist, venturing into vegan vineyards with vinous vigor, or the Boston bookseller burrowing through bound bestsellers backroom, unbinding a 79 bound and a 78 bookmark, bartering it for baronial bucks at Boston's Beacon Hill Bourse, bibliophile to Millionaire, bankrolling a bardic library for the bardless, each episode an emblem of epiphany, etching that even in ebony economies, ebullient errors elevate the everyday to exalted. Auction archives are an alchemist's archive, the 2019 Heritage Holy Grail Gala, where amid moon landing memorabilia, this 79/9 soars past stellar sums, a $250 mill midpoint morphing to $299 under unseen ultra-high-frequency bids from a Silicon Sandhurst syndicate, servers straining like sprinters, the victor a visionary virologist who vaccinates villages with the Vanguard virus vanquished via vaulted value, or the subterranean submission at Superior Galleries, where a southwestern shaman, sage of sagebrush sales, surfaces his spirit-sought stunner, shibboleths shattered as shamans' shares swell to shamanic splendor, sustaining sanctuaries for the sojourning soul, sagas splashed in specialist sheets like numismatic news, nurturing narratives that nourish a nation of nascent nibblers, nibbling at niches from nursery nooks to nursing home nooks. In the grander groove of the Roosevelt rhythm, 79 heralded hubbub in hubbing halls, experimental edgings etching enigmas as America ached through Ayatollah anxieties and Atari afternoons, the mint's mechanized march marching to mismatched measures, minting overdates as odes to oversight, overclads cladding clandestine cores, coveted for cultural cadence, the Iran hostage heartbeat pulsing in its planchet pulse, or the Walkman wave waving in its weak strike whimsy, a dime for the disco, denizens dodging drafts and dollars, Darling to dealers diversifying amid deregulation dawns, Dubai dens and Delaware depots delving deep. It's overdate and overture to opulence in an opus of oil shocks. FOMO flares fierce. This 79 ninths might molder in your mom's makeup mirror tray from that 79 mixer, mingled with mood rings and matchbooks, or masquerade in your mechanic's miscellany for muffler money, machinating millions. Muster it now, magnify the mystery, and manifest your moxie, merging with the multitude of minted miracles who've morphed from mundane to majestic, and as this apex anecdote arcs, absorb its aura. For in this finale, we've crested the coin conundrum crescendo. Tantalizingly, its telemetry transmutes. Ultraviolet unveils underdate undercurrents like underwater unicorns, while waveform whims whisper weight whimsies, a whisker over 2.5 grams wagering on its warrior weight. Rim reposes riddled with cud craters, captivating cartographers of clad calamities at certification citadels, census crests crowning it with counts in the cubits, catalyzing conclaves where clairvoyants chart $350 mil meridians as monetary monsoons mount. Orbiting orbs of ownership, it's orbited by Oslo oligarchs and Osaka overlords, obelisks of opulence in orbital observatories, while in the homeland, heritage hunts in hollowed homesteads harvest heirlooms, homeschool heroes honing hunts with handheld halos, halcyon cycles cycling ceaselessly. Sorrow's stings strike. The scrupulous scrubber scouring shine from shadowed splendor, some sinking to sludge, or odyssey of ousters over orphaned overdates, oligarchies of offspring ousting one another until olive branches broker the bounty, binding bloodlines in burnished bonds. Prognostications propel, with quantum quorums quizzing coinage quanta, will overdates outpace or obliterate an outlay, this 79 ninths a nirvana navigator, your narrative now nestled in numismatic nobility, notching fortunes from the forgotten. And so, as the echoes of this $299 million maestro fade into the firmament, leaving you luminous with lore and longing to loot your ledgers, remember, every dime dances with destiny, and you've just danced through decades of dazzle, from modern mishaps to 70s masterpieces, armed now to a light on your own alchemical arc. So subscribe, share your finds in the comments, and until our next numismatic nebula, keep coin close, curiosity closer. This is the Coins channel, signing off with silver in our souls.